All right. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon. Aloha. Welcome back to another episode of Lou Reviews. Oh, did I totally lose the music there? What happened? Oh no. Okay, there it is. There it is. Cool. Today we're going to be doing our weekly review of The Last of Us on HBO Max. So running solo today. Next week, though, we got two guests coming for sure. And Mike might also be coming back next week. We shall see. But yeah, it's been a killer episode. We got some funny stories about it. So let's dig into it, shall we? Thank you guys so much for being here. Whoever's here, a small audience today. That's cool. No worries. Let's get on with the show, shall we? All right. So let me do this. Let me kill music. There we go. Kill music. Music is now killed. They gotta find a better way to fade that out. But anyway, all right, let's get on with it. So episode 3, The Last of Us. We picked up just 10 miles outside of Boston. And this episode has been gone viral. Officially, I feel like it's the first episode of the series that's really gone viral. Everybody seems to be talking about it. A lot of buzz about this episode on the internet. I think the audience, I don't know if it's split. It's funny because I've talked to some people about it and some people loved it. Some people didn't like it so much. I can tell you my girlfriend absolutely loved it. She's watching it for the 4th time as we speak. I'm not even kidding. I feel like this episode was definitely for the ladies. It was a very heartfelt episode. Not to say that men can't enjoy it. I think I enjoyed it very much. I thought it was a great episode. And I'm going to get into the reasons why. And then we'll rank it at the end. And then we've also got a huge announcement coming tomorrow. So stay tuned for our regular show, which is every Tuesday at 4. We're going to be making a pretty cool announcement. I'm excited about it, and we're gonna get right into it tomorrow too. So we're gonna do that, and we're also gonna review the Shazam trailer, which I have not seen yet. I know it's come out, but I haven't seen it because I wanted to review it live as it happens. Okay. So the cool thing about this series versus say like The Walking Dead, the one thing I like about it is that they actually tell us where they are. They tell us what time it is. And that's awesome. Like Boston is a real world place. I can relate to that. Walking Dead, I know they went to Atlanta partly because mostly they filmed in Georgia and around Atlanta. So I think Atlanta is a big reason why it played into the storyline. But I don't think in the comic books that's the way it was. I think that the United States was literally fractured into sections, into like new colonies essentially. So that's what's really cool about this. I hope they sort of explore, so what are the new borders in the new United States, post-apocalyptic United States, or do they have a mapping of what sort of what group or gang, because you've got Raiders, you got the Fireflies, you've got the government, which are essentially Nazis, and they call that out in the episode, which is a really funny moment. But yeah, so hopefully they'll explore stuff like that. But I just right off the bat, I love that they're very detailed with where people are, and so it's just nice to follow along that way. So we start off where they're trying to reach again, like another. They're trying to get to Joel's house, or not Joel's house, but oh my gosh, what's his name? Bill's house. They're trying to get to Bill's house, which is another 5-mile journey, if I'm not mistaken. But they kind of had a little cool moment there between Pedro and Bella's character, and that was she was basically saying, it's not my fault that you're in this situation. It's not my fault that you have me. So stop blaming me for being in this situation. Like, you agreed to it. I didn't tell you to agree to it. I didn't force you to agree to it, but we're here. So, please stop giving me shit essentially for stuff that's not my fault. And so, it was a cool moment because essentially is like came to the admission that, yeah, I'm kind of being a jerk. So Yeah. Okay, so we've already got some with the audience is already split. Grant Levesque loved it, and Michael Wade said that was horrible. And I think he's talking about the episode. Not sure if he's talking about me, but hopefully not. Anyway, so another cool moment that I thought was when they came up to the Cumberland Farms sort of little gas station slash convenience store, and he was looking for a stash of stuff, and also put away a gun because he's like, I don't have enough rounds for this gun. There's no point in me carrying it around, so might as well just keep it for another day if I do come across any ammunition. So I thought that was cool. It was like a nice little moment for the video game, and at the same time Ellie also finds like a secret room. This scene, in a lot of ways, paid a huge homage to the video game, as far as I'm concerned, because it was very much like, he's looking for something, and she's also just kind of snooping around and stumbles onto something. So when she, by the way, spoiler alert for the whole episode, I'm spoiling everything. So if you don't want to be spoiled, go watch it first, then come back. But yeah, so she's discovers a secret um room, essentially, that's you can access through a door, through the floor. And so she crawls in there, and she discovers one of the clickers that has been buried under this pile of concrete and rubble. And it was a very interesting moment. It was kind of I feel like it was one of those moments where the writers are kind of giving you a very ambiguous moment of which way this character can go. She could, kind of like Luke Skywalker. She could go evil or, become a psychopath because of just the surroundings around her, and violence is very normalized. She's been in gunfights, she's seen people die, she's been through trauma herself. So, like, this idea of like a young kid going through this very traumatic world, becoming a person that's very desensitized to violence and desensitized to doing what would normally freak out, a 12, 13-year-old kid. So she takes her pocket knife and slices the clicker's face, and you see the spores kind of oozing out of it, and then she stabs it in the head after giving it like a very awkward sort of glance and stare for a little bit, stabs it in the head and kills it, and then crawls out. And Pedro Pascal never found her, never even knew that happened. So you could see how she's sort of rebellious and independent and wants to find out things for herself very much. And you can see how that could more than likely is going to lead into trouble into the series. Her sort of not listening to the people who know the surroundings that they're in. And I think, just it's like with anything dangerous, first thing I think of is riding a motorcycle. The second you don't pay respect to what you're doing is when you get hurt really badly or something bad might happen. So always be paying attention, always be careful when you're doing something like this. And I think the same goes for this post-apocalyptic zombie world. And like any kid, I think she sort of throws caution to that, or is really not even aware of it. But it was a cool moment, very, very cool part of the show. So um we also learned, as they're sort of walking and going to Bill's place, that they see a plane. It was a really cool scene. They see a plane that was crashed, and they're going down the path, and Ellie's like, hey, I want, or Pedro Pascal's character is like, Joel's like, no, we're not going this way. There's a lot of really just unnerving, disturbing stuff. And she's, of course, the youth in her is like, well, I don't care. Let's go see it. I've already seen enough. There's nothing that could possibly shock me. And turns out she found out some stuff that she didn't know. So this was a cool scene. Basically, Pedro explains to her, because she asked the question, well, how does this happen in one day? How did society completely just collapse within a week? And Pedro's theory, or Joel's theory, was that the infection passed through food like bread, cake, cereal, pancake mix, and probably one distributor that sort of outsourced that wheat throughout the world, and people ingested it, and that's how they think people got sick and infected, and then that is what caused it and why it was so widespread so quickly. So yeah, I thought that was a really cool sort of explanation of how everything just completely collapsed, and how it happened so quickly. And it's interesting, like essentially I wonder, it's like you pick the wrong brand. If you pick the wrong brand, you probably got sick. That's pretty scary. That's happened before, right? Like we've had that with here. I remember the latest thing, that the most recent thing anyway that I can remember, is the E. coli scare through spinach. That was a big deal for a good 3 or 4 months. So it happens. And then so here's what I love about this show is that, again, like it gives us a timeline and time frame, but it does a really good job of jumping the timeline. It goes to the beginning of the pandemic, first day pandemic, to present timeline, and then anywhere in between. It flashes back to September 30th, 2003, which is, the day of this sort of the fall of society. And they continue on this path, and once they decide to continue on the path, the flashback happens. And I thought it was going to be a story about how these bones that they walked by on the way to their destination, this essentially a burn pit and a burial pit for people who were killed. And she learns that the people in those pits, most of them weren't even sick. And she's questioning, well, why do you kill people that aren't even sick? He's like, well, people who are dead can't get infected. And so that was sort of the mindset of the military, is like, hey, we can't take any chances. There was no testing system. Everything happened so quickly that the rash decision was, if they're not in uniform, if we don't know them, if they're not essentially in the club, they're out. They get killed. And it happened to Joel, and that's how his daughter got killed. It was, she's learning these things, and we're also, as an audience, obviously we sort of have the idea that this is what happened, but now we kind of get confirmation of how things got to where they got, and what the response, at least from the US government standpoint, was. And that was what's the expression, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, casualties of war. And they had to go totalitarian. They had to put up walls. They had to use people for labor. It became a dictatorship really quickly. Interesting. I thought that was really cool. So they go to the flashbacks of September 30th, and then they show the bones of the ground. So this is where we flash back to Nick Offerman's character, Bill. Bill in the video game is a doomsday prepper, essentially I think of sort of MAGA doomsday prepper, very right wing, very conservative, very distrustful of government, to a point where he's dug a bunker beneath his basement that's got secret access and cameras all around his house. We learned that he was a conspiracy theorist. He was a conspiracy theorist. He thought 9/11 was an inside job, and that the government were Nazis. And this was a cool moment, and we'll get to it in a second. But obviously that was confirmed, that the government kind of was Nazis, because that was their response to this pandemic. And so we get the love story between let's see here. Hold on a second. Babe, what was Bill's partner's name? Frank. That's it. I didn't write Frank's name down. Okay, so we flash back to Bill. We we see the government come into his house, check his house, they check the basement, nobody's there, they move on to the next house, they put everybody in trucks and they drive him away. And the in sort of inference there is that that truckload of people is the people that is laying in that pit, children, women, all civilians, none of them sick, and were all murdered, and buried by the side of a highway, and burned, essentially. Burned, then I don't even think buried, just there for the bones to just sit. And so that was a cool tie-in from their journey to the flashback. And so then we get the story of Bill. Bill is a doomsday prepper. Again, he's got, walls of guns. And the first thing this guy does is hop in his truck, go steal his neighbor's boat, rip out the seats, drive to a I think it was a gas station. But before he got to the gas station, he bought these huge drums, then filled those drums with gasoline, then went to Home Depot, bought a whole bunch of soda, didn't buy anything. He stole the supplies, everything he needed, got a generator. I mean, like he absolutely just, the town was empty. So he looted the town and built a compound and an electrified fence and fortified it eventually with with piles of cars. And it was a really, really, really cool moment. So he had a house and had electric. He grew his own food. He hunted for his for his dinners, a lot of rabbit and deer and elk, and he had chickens, and so he had a whole life, very comfortable, raided a wine shop, so that he knew how to live. He had a taste for the finer things, and he was a very cool character. And the moments that he had by himself in this sort of montage of who Bill was amazing. And I was looking forward to seeing a lot about this character. And boy, did we get a awesome backstory. So after all of this, the montage of Bill, he captures somebody in one of his booby traps. Somebody wandered, his name's Frank, wandered into a hole that he fell into. And Bill and Frank have this interaction, essentially, like, hey, where you going? He's like, I was trying to get to Boston. And Boston is where the government has established their, I guess, one of their headquarters and demilitarized zones, where people can go, and you're going to be free to use this free labor, and you're going to get shitty meals, but you won't be bit by zombies, and you won't have to fight the apocalypse by yourself in the wastelands. So that's where Frank is heading to, and explains to Bill how he hasn't eaten 2 days, he's starving, and asks him for something to eat, and of course Bill's very defensive at first, like, if I give you food, then every other bub's going to come around here. And this isn't an Arby's. And this was a great moment. And if you haven't seen it, again, go watch the episode. It's great. This isn't an Arby's. And Frank wittily replies, well, they never served free lunch at an Arby's, So it was a really, really, really cool scene. And then from there, Bill lowers a ladder to let Frank out. He lets him into the compound, which is, he's letting his guard up. Bill is a very defensive, very untrustworthy people. He hates society. He hated society, and the fall of society is something he actually welcomed. He hated people. He wasn't a people person. And as far as he was concerned, he didn't need anybody. And he was right. Like, he was very self-sufficient. He could have lived the rest of his life without anyone. Until Frank came into the picture. And so this is where I think a lot of, either you love it or you hate it. And I got to tell you, I enjoyed it. I thought this was a really cool moment. And here's the thing, is that this is inferred in the video game. so it's they're paying homage to the source material, and in the source material Frank was, or Bill was, gay, and Frank was his lover. If you go play the game, or if you can Google it and read about it, there's a letter where in the video game Frank gets bit by one of the zombies. He doesn't die and it looked like he had a stroke in this version of the show, but he leaves Bill a letter in the game that Joel finds and reads and gives to Bill. And it was such a unique moment in video game history that and I want to make sure I got this right, but GLAAD, the association, I can't remember what GLAAD stands for. Okay, yeah. So let me see here. The decision. So Naughty Dog won recognition from GLAAD for its portrayal of Bill in the organization's list of the year's most intriguing new LGBTQ characters. So the the video game company received an award for writing a character that was unique and had an interesting voice and an interesting perspective that maybe you don't normally find in the LGBT community characters that are put on television or film, or in any type of media like video games. And so they took this recognition and this character, and they really dove into the depth and complexity of Bill. And Frank is the catalyst to see that side of Bill, the very emotional, very vulnerable side of Bill, the side that he never wanted to show anyone and never thought he would. And so yeah, so it turns out Bill's a homosexual, an in the closet homosexual. And when Frank comes into his house and he notices that the house is clean and that, when Bill cooks, he cooks a beautiful duck, presented and, well, first cooked to perfection and presented like like a Michelin chef. And when he puts it on the table, he turns the plate so the protein is facing the guest. I mean, just these little things, and then serves it with a Beaujolais. So, Frank, being gay, notices these things and makes a move on Bill. And it worked. I think he was taking a chance. He was taking a real risk because, it maybe Bill would have freaked out, being the conservative and untrustworthy sort of personality that he puts off. He takes a risk and he kisses him, and they fall in love. And it's a really, really, really sweet, wonderful portrayal of love in a post-apocalyptic world with two killer actors, Nick Offerman, and I'm forgetting the actor's name, but he was in the first season of uh, The White Lotus. He was the hotel manager in The White Lotus season 1. You know what? Let's Google him so I can give him some love. So Murray Bartlett, and he played Armand in The White Lotus. This guy was amazing as Frank. It was adorable, man. It was adorable. Give me rosy cheeks. My girlfriend was in pure tears again. Like she's very emotional right now, and so she went right back to it to sort of fill that the emotional needs that she wants. She feels like crying, and this episode did it for her, and I think it did it for a lot of people. She's not the only one. The internet is going crazy for this episode. There are memes being made galore about the romance between Frank and Bill, and it's adorable. And it was very well acted, and it was beautifully done. And again, it wasn't to me, it wasn't force fed. Some people are going to feel it was force fed. Some people are going to say, "Oh, I don't like this, and I want to watch a movie, a show about zombies." And look, I get it, but this show, if you start out with Frank's character, Bill's character, setting booby traps and killing raiders and being a total badass, which is what everyone wants to see. I think if you start out at 10, it's going to be really difficult to sustain that through one season, let alone, say 6 or 7 or 10 or 15 seasons. If this show, I mean, if you do this show right, you could do it for a long time and keep it interesting and not repetitive. And I'm sorry, like this storyline is unique. It's different to this post-apocalyptic zombie genre that we've had, and we've had it a couple times, not only in television but film. I mean, it's just countless, right? We've never seen a relationship like this in this kind of setting. So I enjoyed it. And I also think that because this show jumps around from timeline to timeline, or different parts of the timeline, excuse me, um, chances are we're going to see Bill and Frank again. We're going to see them when they're all fighting with Joel and Tess, and they're fighting against raiders, or they're fighting against zombies, or they're fighting against, bloaters. Because in the video game, when you go to Bill's compound, you fight one of these huge, just bloated, monstrous type zombies. And so I won't be shocked if we get those moments, because we got a time span from 2003. It shows Bill, going alone, not trusting anyone, to falling in love, to 2023. So we got 20 years of a montage of Bill's whole time at this compound, right? Now you can fill the rest of the episodes with different moments of that compound, and he could still kick ass, and Frank can still have killer moments, and there could still be really funny, genuine, heartfelt moments, because there was a cool part of the Bill Frank relationship is Frank is very much about the details. He wants the garden to look beautiful. He wants it to be a certain color. He wants to fix stores in the town so they can go walk through town, and then maybe one day invite friends and have people over. And after, a very well established relationship over a few years, Frank, behind Bill's back, uses the radio to contact somebody, and that somebody happened to be Joel and Tess. And so there was a cool moment where they were invited to the compound. Bill made dinner. They were eating outside, and like two girls went, left the boys to talk, and they went inside, and it was just a funny moment of just like, don't let him in the house. He's super paranoid. He's super prepper. Like, he's super like guards up mode with Bill when he first meets Joel and Tess. And then to get to the point where when Bill gets shot during a moment where the raiders shot him, and Frank saves his life, the first things out of Bill's mouth were like, hey, call Joel, tell him to come here and live with you, because he can help take care of you. So like those were his dying wishes, were like, find Joel. So he went from not trusting Joel to really and wouldn't admit it publicly, almost in like a locker room sort of setting, where like, what's the term? A bromance. Right. When you're in a bromance, you never actually compliment that guy. You're always you show love through derogatory statements in a way, you show love through hazing. But when shit gets real, those are the people you actually call. And so when that happened, it was just cool to see that, man, you could see that this relationship went through a lot. At first it was just not trusting, and then building trust through trade, right? And that's also really cool, and something that I would love to see explored in this show, because even the most ardent of enemies, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, like even the most ardent enemies, doesn't matter what the situation, there's always trade. There's always something that person has that the other person doesn't, and vice versa. And there's always room to trade things, no matter how many bombs are flying over. So yeah, that was very, very, very cool. Let's see what else. Um, so went over that. Cool. All right. So there was only one thing that kind of took me out of the story, and it was a makeup thing. It was the beards. Something about these beards that just they didn't look good. That that's the only way I could really put it. They didn't look as good as I felt that they could have. Especially Nick Offerman's beard. Um, I don't know, just something about the beards, man. And I think here's the thing: is like I'm looking at a picture of Murray Bartlett now, and he could grow a beard. He has a beard. I wonder if maybe he was shaved for a different project or came in shaved to this project, and so they had to give him a beard because he couldn't grow out the beard in time. I don't know. But yeah, the beards just took me out of it a little bit. That's my only sort of critique of the show. Um, so yeah, so this was, this was just a killer episode, and I think it adds a lot of depth to the relationship, not only between Bill and Joel, but Bill and Frank and Tess. And I think, if you're bummed that the character died, don't be, because like I said, I think the jumping of timelines is going to allow for these characters to come back. And I cannot imagine that Nick Offerman was just there for one episode. Now, the only other way I could see something where but I don't think HBO would do this. If this was a network television show like CBS or Fox or something like that, then maybe you would have like Nick Offerman as a one-off sort of guest star co-star role. And then, every episode you have like another person that is very integral to that episode and that story. But then the next episode it's somebody different, or they use that one character to do 3 episodes and through another 3 and then another 3, but they change actors. Like that happens in TV shows. But I cannot imagine they're going to do that with this. I think they're going to explore Bill's character a lot because, again, like the booby traps that we did see were cool. Those flamethrower booby traps when the Raiders came that was awesome. I want to see what else he built in this compound. And I want to see how him and Joel not only trade, but what they trade and how that, like, what adventures they go on. Because we're talking about 20 years here, essentially. Well, technically 16 years, because Bill was there by himself for 4, and then I'm guessing he had 1-2 years there with Frank, so 6 years, so about 14 years, of building a relationship with Joel. So that's a lot of storytelling. That's got a lot of room to tell some really great stories. So I wouldn't be bummed. I would be excited. And I think this show can't get any mushier or any cuter or any sort of lovable and huggable than it did for this episode. I think this was a 10 if you're looking for, a story that's going to make you cry. Like this is pushing it, right? And I think this episode won a lot of those people who want that from their TV show. And like I said, my girlfriend's watching it for the 4th time right now. Like it's crazy. And the memes that she's been sending me, and her friends are all talking about it. So this was a girly episode, and I loved it. Again, as a guy, I thought it was great. I thought the storytelling and the acting was superb. The cinematography again was wonderful. And they ended the episode with Ellie and Joel, finding Frank and Bill, and they died essentially. Frank, it looks like Frank had had a stroke, and he was kind of tired and sick, literally sick of living his life, and so he convinces Bill, hey, I want to end this. I want to take the rest of my medication and have one last perfect day with you, and cook me the dinner that I want you to cook me, and take me where I want you to take me, and dress how I want you to dress, and then I want to have a glass of wine with this medication and die in your arms. And Bill was very hesitant, but um, granted his lover's wish. And but at the end we find out that Bill not only put the crushed pills within his glass of wine, but he put it in the bottle. And so they both drank the wine. And so they both die together like Romeo and Juliet. And Bill, you know, takes him to the room. He blocks the door so nobody could come in ever, and opens the window so the house doesn't smell. So when Joel does eventually come to the compound, he could walk in the house. And he left him a note basically telling him, hey, anything you want is yours, but I still don't trust you. I respect you, but I don't trust you. And I think, again, that's just another like brotherly jab. He obviously trusts him. He obviously respects him. He obviously loves him, in one way, not as much as Frank, obviously, but enough to where that was his dying wish. That was his will. Was to leave all of this to Joel. And so Joel and Ellie take showers. and again, this is the moment of the show where in the back of my mind, I'm like, why are they leaving? Why are they going anywhere? That compound was perfect for 20 years. It's a good place to stay. It's a really good place to stay. And you're going from Boston to Wyoming. You're going across the country. Like, the chances of you dying are way higher. So yeah, but hey, it's a TV show. They must continue, right? So they do. And plus there's a mission. They've got to get Ellie to this medical facility on the West Coast. So Joel wants to go to Wyoming because he believes his brother's there, and hopefully he can rescue his brother and get him out of whatever trouble he's in. And so that's where the episode leaves us up until episode 4, and that's where we're at. So yeah, I think I love this episode. I'm going to read through your guys' comments and then give it a score and see what you guys think. Okay, so Michael Wade said that was horrible. Grant loves it, so we're split already. Okay, so you hated the episode, but you love me. It was brutal. Okay, gosh, wow. Okay, well, let me see. Hopefully, after my review, maybe you've lightened up a little bit. We'll see. Okay, so Carissa W says, I really enjoyed the episode. It was kind of disappointed because I wanted to watch more of the main storyline, action, not a love story. Look, man, there's got to be love in the post-apocalyptic world. Like, it can't just all be action, because again, it's hard not only to write that, but to sustain it. And you as the audience, I promise you, you're going to get bored. There's got to be episodes that disappoint you. Always. There's always, no matter what season. It could be the Chappelle Show. It could be Game of Thrones. It could be whatever. And there's always going to be an episode where you're like, nah, I didn't love that one. All right, so this one wasn't for you. The good news is I don't think every episode is going to be like this, right? So I say, relax. They're trying to make a show for everybody, not just one person. Michael Wade, none of those, I don't know what that means. Eat? None of those things I eat. What do you mean? Like, okay. Yeah, well, hey, you don't eat duck. I promise you would eat them if there was nothing else to eat. I promise you would. That scene, me of Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman, Bill and Frank. I love it. Yeah, that dude, Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman. That was a killer movie. I watched that like a year ago. It still holds up. It's a little goofy, but it still holds up. Michael Wade, like, how do we even get to this point? From here, on or nothing to do with this season. Should have just been Bill. I promise you, you're gonna get more Bill. Mike's here. What's up, Mike? Shit, I forgot to send people after my show. We're literally watching episode 3 right now. Oh, awesome, dude. I hope you like it. Yeah, yeah. But I hope I didn't spoil anything for Mike. But yeah, he's probably watching it right now. Okay, so both great actors, totally agree. Parks and Rec. I'm down with Parks, and yeah, Michael's excited to see Nick Offer. I'm interested to see what Mike thinks of the episode. Such a different role twist for Nick. I agree. Like this is, I would have never expected. I based off the game, and I played the game. I didn't pick up on the inference in the game. And I think a lot of people missed on it. It's easy to miss that Frank's character is gay in the game, but it's there. So I wasn't expecting this episode whatsoever. And I never thought I'd see Nick Offerman in a role like this. I totally agree with that statement, Grant. Yeah, it's he knocked it out of the park. And again, just to reiterate, I think Carissa, you won't be disappointed. We're going to get episodes of Bill kicking ass. I promise you. We got to see a little bit in this episode, but yeah, I'm there. I'm there with you. It's not that I don't want to see it. It's just it's tough to do. You can't do every episode of Bill kicking ass. Now, here's the beautiful part: is that from every episode from here on out of Bill kicking ass, it will have infinitely more meaning and more weight. So that's cool. Why wouldn't they have done it last? There was absolutely no zombies or storyline. That there was one zombie. I disagree. Yeah, I just disagree, Wade. What ended up happening to Bill? Yeah, he died. He killed himself along with Frank. So, and in the game, Frank gets bit by a zombie and hangs himself, and Bill leaves the hanging body there. And when Joel finds the letter in the game, he gives it to Bill. Bill reacts to it, and you could in the dialogue when you re-listen to it, you can tell that Bill is fighting off tears. He's fighting off tears because he loved them, and it's again inferred that they were much more than just friends. So yeah, so in the game, Bill ends up living. It's not like a joint suicide. So that's where it changes. That's the difference between the game and the show. And what's the little changes also is that there was a letter, but it wasn't for Bill. This time the letter was for Joel. And instead of Joel finding it, Ellie finds it. So she finds it, reads it, gets to the part about Tess, stops because she feels like she shouldn't read it anymore, and gives it then to Joel. And then he reads the rest and kind of scoffs at it, trying not to show an emotion, just like Joel did, just like Bill did in the game. But again, holding back tears. So again, just paying respect to the source material in a very wonderful way. So don't be angry. If you're angry, you didn't love the game. Like if you love the game, you should really love this show so far. It's just following the source material. So, hey, it be what it be. Kyle Furniture really enjoyed the episode. Gave an insight into life after the outbreak, how different people coped and got by. I totally agree. Yeah, we did. We talked about that. So let's see here. Good world building, excuse me. I also like the Jakarta subplot, which it was a little bit longer, but I'm okay with how it was. I'm totally with you. Totally with you. Yeah. Oh, you missed that did you miss that in the show? Grant, did you miss that in the episode or the game? Interesting. Yeah, let me know. Have to save humanity. Okay, so I would chill there for a week at least, even if they did end up leaving to go find his brother. Totally with you, Kyle. Totally with you. All right, so thank you guys so much for your questions and concerns, or not concerns, but comments. Yeah, dude, I again, I loved it. I think I gave last week's episode an 8.5. So I'm going to give this one an 8.7. Emotionally more connected. I think the show's just really starting to cook. And I think also that this show is showing you what the writers are going to bring you, like what this season is going to, what the show is going to be bringing you. And that's obviously different points of time, different parts of the world, whether it be in the opening, in the middle of the show, in flashbacks. So I think the world building is what this game, or not the game, but the show is going to be about. So I think if you like the world building in this, Kyle, I think you're going to really love it going forward, because I think the writers are telling you and the studio's telling you, hey, we're world building. Like, that's what we're going to do. We're not only going to world build, but we're going to dive deep into characters. And if it takes a whole episode, we'll do it. And I'm good with that. I'm good with that because it keeps things interesting and fresh, and it allows you to really change things up. It really, really does. Would have brought more of those guns too, right? Totally. Yeah, I missed it in the show. Baby girl was annoying to put the wiggles on. Damn it. Oh, 9 out of 10. Okay. Well, yeah, you got to. Sorry if I ruined it for you, Grant. You got to watch the rest of it, man. Sorry. You said you loved the episode. I thought you watched the whole thing. Mega Brian Pranch gives it a 9 out of 10. Yeah, I'm almost there. I'm only not giving it a 9 out of 10 because I'm really saving 9s and 10s for like mind-blowing episodes, and these are really good. They're really strong. They're as closest to a 9 as you can get. If you're rounding, you'd have to round up to a 9, so I'm right there with you. Mega Briar Patch, I think that's a good score. All right, you guys, so I think that's it. Before we get out of here, I want to let you guys know that we are there we go. That's way too loud. What happened there? Sorry, guys. Yeah, they're mute. You know what? I'm not loving their music sort of additions here on Streamer. I'm gonna have to write an email. Anyway, tomorrow we've got a really cool show. Again, we're going to be reviewing the Shazam trailer live. I haven't watched it yet, so you'll get my live reaction to it. And then also got a big announcement about the channel. I've hinted at this already. But it's coming a little sooner than I thought. So that's a hint if you've been paying attention. So I'll be unveiling that. We'll be talking about that tomorrow. And yeah, so stay tuned. Next week, again, we'll have a panel of at least 3 next week to break down The Last of Us. I hope you guys have been enjoying these reviews. If you have, obviously you're here. You've already liked, shared, and subscribed. Share with your friends. Let them know what we're doing. I think they'll enjoy it. I know I getting a lot of love, people enjoying the show after it's aired. So yeah, so anyway, you guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching the show. Thanks for supporting the show. I'm having a blast. I can't wait to bring you this new stuff I'm working on. It's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, I think it's going to grow the channel in a really fun way. So with that said, love you all. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you tomorrow, 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, for another episode of Blue Reviews. Until next time, you guys, have a great night. Peace. Hi, Carolina. Oh my God, that's so awesome. Thanks for watching.